Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to be joined on this episode by Anna Schwabe, who's the VP of R&D at 420 Organics and also known as Dr. Annabis. How are you keeping today, Anna?
I'm good. Good. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic, even the better for talking to you. Do you maybe want to give everybody a quick little 60-second overview of how you ended up as the VP of R&D at 420 Organics and your area of expertise?
So I have a PhD in specifically in cannabis genetics. My research was looking at genetics and phenotypic diversity in cannabis. And after I graduated, I worked for Mile High Labs for a short time, but then I got hired by 420 Organics here in New Jersey a couple of years ago. I've been here for exactly 2 years now, and we cultivate cannabis, so both hemp and marijuana, using aquaponic methods, which is using fish to feed the plants, and the plants clean the water for the fish, and it kind of all goes in this closed loop system, and it's a very elegant and green method of farming.
Okay, incredible. So, as one of the first questions I was going to actually display is aquaponics. Is the nutrient value and the sustainability model of this far superior than the current method?
It can be. It depends. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it. If it's done right, it definitely can be comparable or superior to other modern methods. But it is also very finicky and delicate because we have biofilters, like we have the fish and we have a bacteria culture and we have some other things going on. Anything that goes wrong in the system can just basically kink it and everything goes wrong. So it's really it's nuanced, and it can be difficult because you can't just, like, if the plants need something, you can't just add a bunch of nutrients into the water because that'll hurt the fish and do other things. So it's very nuanced.
Yeah, it seems to be the more complicated a process, the better it can end up being. But like comparing an orchestra to a guitar solo, there's a hell of a lot more that can go wrong with an orchestra if one person ends up going off
Yeah.
key, just one individual thing. Can we touch on cannabis biology initially to start? What is biology?
The study of life.
The study of life. So for cannabis biology, it's the study of the life of all the various genetic types of living plants.
Well, if you're talking specifically cannabis biology, you're talking about the life of the cannabis plant. So everything from, seed to consumption, if you're talking about consumable cannabis, or, to products, if you're talking about industrial hemp.
Okay, so basically, it allows us to decipher the laws of cannabis and to be able to enhance in any way, shape, or form. What is the best? Is the Emerald Triangle in America the best place for naturally occurring cannabis?
Many would argue it is in terms of outdoor cultivation because of the specific, like, makeup of the soil there, the sunlight, the elevation. It all just seems to be a perfect storm for cannabis cultivation. Not unlike, there's certain regions of France that are really well known for grape cultivation. So yeah, the Emerald Triangle is really where cannabis seems to do really well in the United States.
In regards to the latest paper that you've put out about THC testing levels, do you want to maybe give everybody a little overview of that paper and the findings that you had from it?
Yeah, super excited. This paper was the last sort of publishable item from my PhD dissertation. And I just kind of stumbled across it while I was doing another study. And we mentioned this in the paper. We were looking at genetic variation and can people detect differences in the aromas of cannabis if there's a genetic, outlier for a certain strain. The answer is yes, they can. But when I purchased those samples, I noticed, and then I did the cannabinoid analysis on those samples, I noticed that the THC levels seem to be much lower that we tested than were on the labels. Like, I didn't remember buying anything that was advertised as 12%. And so I went back and checked all the packaging, and I was like, yeah, these are really different numbers. So we expanded the study, we did some more shopping, and found pretty much across the board that the numbers on the package don't match what's inside the package. And they're substantially different, like about 23 to 35% different, which is a big number. Like it's if you were to have a beer and it says, 6% on the label, but there was really 12% in the bottle, like that's a big difference in alcohol. And the same sort of thing with, that the advertising on cannabis, it's quite a bit different, although it's lower, not higher.
And is it comparing basically the lab testing at cultivation facility compared to post, let's say, processing, where it's gone through a number of machinery and you might have lost some of the trichomes, or is it different? The water moisture doesn't matter from the start?
No, we tested the same way that testing facilities, when cultivators test before they put product on the shelf, they test the finished product, dried, and all that. And we tested the exact same methods, the exact same way that a testing lab would test, using the same methods, dried it out completely like a testing facility would do. I mean, there was no difference in the testing methods from testing labs.
Is this a case now where we already discussed with the previous guest? Have we got a number of labs that are basically their client is the person who's getting the results of them? So it would make sense for them to make their client happy and alter the THC content.
There's multiple points where people benefit from having higher results. So, and it all comes from pricing is basically set on THC content. And so, yes, the cultivator has an incentive to get back higher prices because then they can get a better price when they sell it. And the labs are sort of incentivized because if they come back with lower numbers, they're going to lose customers because the customer wants the higher value, right? And the cultivator, in Colorado, I mean, every state has their testing procedures that you're supposed to follow. But if you're the cultivator and you're collecting the samples to take into the lab, you could potentially be picking and choosing which flowers you take in to get tested. So in that case, the lab wouldn't be doing anything wrong. It could be the cultivator that's taking in, the premium flower for testing. Or if they're being genuine and taking in a representative sample, it could be the lab that is incentivized to increase those numbers. And it, ultimately it doesn't matter whose fault it is. The thing that matters is that the thing on the outside of the box doesn't match the inside of the box. And so the consumers need to be aware of that, and also probably should stop purchasing cannabis based on the THC number, because that's not a really good way to buy cannabis.
Yeah, I think anybody who smokes and consumes cannabis now at this stage doesn't really pay too much attention to it. I think the terpenes and the flavonoids are getting more attention than a number on the side of the packaging.
Well, and we have to remember that not everybody is at the same place in their cannabis journey. So there are still people who are just starting out, just trying it. And those people don't realize that THC is not a good way to judge quality. Whereas, more seasoned consumers, of course, they know that THC doesn't mean anything. But we have to remember not everybody's the same. Not everybody knows the same stuff.
Next topic I wanted to talk about, an area you're an expert in, is genetic and phenotypic variations. Can you explain what a genetic variation is and what a phenotypic variation is for anybody who doesn't understand either?
So your phenotype is your observable characteristics. So what you look like. And so in the case of cannabis, that would be growth morphology, cannabinoids, terpenes, big fluffy buds versus dense, compact buds. Anything that you can observe, either but visually or through your senses, is considered your phenotype. And your phenotype is dictated by your genotype, your genetic makeup, so your DNA, your genes, what you inherited from your mom and your dad, as well as the environment. So we don't really know the impact, how much the environment impacts cannabis. That has yet to be determined. But from my research, I found that environment has quite a bit of impact on the final product. So if a grower has different methods, uses different watering and nutrient regimes, indoor versus outdoor, cultivating the flower at different times. So is it completely mature? Is it a little bit immature? And then also what happens after cultivation. So the drying, curing, time to sale, all of those things are going to alter what you what you ultimately consume at the end of the road.
Okay, incredible. Very interesting. In terms of the future of cultivation that you see in New Jersey, obviously we know that in the last year or so you guys came online. What is it, year and a half that New Jersey became the sales became legal?
Yeah, it was last year on 4, I think it was 21. They sort of, I don't know if they did that on purpose. They should have done it on 420, but they didn't. And I don't know if that was like what they didn't want to open on 420. But yes, it's been a year since adult use cannabis, as a, you know, in addition to medical, has come online. However, the process of getting people licensed has been relatively slow. And at the moment, most of the people who have licenses to sell recreational to adult use cannabis is limited to the multi-state operators who are already here operating in the medical space, which is not at all what New Jersey set out to do, but it's what has ended up happening. And so there aren't really a lot of mom and pop shops yet that are up and running, but we are one of those that is now building out our facility with our conditional license that we have. So yeah, it's slow.
Yeah, it seems to be the East Coast of America seems to be the kind of the new darling of the industry at the moment, and it's going to be interesting. It's probably going to take a number of years before the certain brands and the certain leaders come to the fore, and you've got the ability to tell the difference. Because it seems to me it's one of the only industries that anybody who's got a bit of money can just jump out into straight away, and you slowly realize that people like yourself, with the area of expertise that you guys have, are what you need to make these businesses successful. So it'd be very interesting to see. What is your overview of the Eastern Seaboard of America at the moment? Are there any companies that you think are these are going to be long term around, or is it dominated by large capital at the moment?
You know, I really don't know. I spend a lot of time in my house, in my office, at my computer. I don't really get out a whole lot, and I'm not a business person, so I really don't keep a lot of eyes on the business end of the whole cannabis industry. Like, I'm really science focused and, you know, doing boring things like writing grants to try and get money and stuff like that. So I don't have an assessment of that.
Has anybody ever done a trial playing music to cannabis as it grows and seen the variations that comes out of it?
You know, I don't know that there's anything published out there. I do know of one really talented grower, and he's actually up in Canada, but he consistently has music piped into his plant rooms, and it's always some some form of reggae. So, you know, like there's some techno reggae and traditional reggae, and his plants are phenomenal. I can't say that it's his music that's making the plants grow so well or his particular method of growing. But there's that. But there are some studies that suggest that music helps. But if we, and I've had discussions about this, if we think about, you know, plants don't have ears, but they can potentially sort of gather information about the world around them. When a seed is ready to germinate, if there's nothing going on, if there's no water running, if there's no animals scurrying around, if there's no trees, you know, rustling, blowing in the wind, then it's probably not a great place to germinate. And so maybe that's not a good place for the seed to put all its effort into growing if there's nothing around. So I feel like the plants are responding to the environment, to the vibrations and things like that, because it indicates a healthy environment for the plants to grow. That's my theory.
Interesting. I would imagine that music is vibrations, and vibrations would trigger any sort of activity in something that would be there to sense vibrations. But you'll have to keep your ears to the ground. I mean, you can let me know if you hear of anybody who's doing any such study like this.
There was a Mythbusters about that. They set up, I think it was 5 greenhouses. The plants did not like country and Western music.
Yeah.
They did like heavy metal, which was kind of surprising. They didn't like nothing, so they didn't like the silent room. But the other kinds of, I think there was classical. They did fine with classical music. They did fine with heavy metal, and like rock and roll was fine too. So I do think it kind of matters, like what the vibrations are. But you know, don't play country and Western to your plants. They don't like it.
Yeah. Tell me just a couple of questions before you go. What is your favorite consumption method? Food, inhalation, or have you got a different one?
I prefer edibles, and but I'm not a heavy consumer, and I don't really enjoy a lot of THC. I like to have more CBD with just a smidge of THC or other cannabinoids. I'm kind of dabbling with THCV right now, which is supposed to be good for like your metabolism and stuff. Why not? You know? And then, you know, if I have, like, I threw my back out once and it hurt so bad that I was like, oh, I'm gonna smoke some CBD, and it kicked it in the butt like right away. Within a couple of minutes, my back felt fine. So I think it just depends on, you know, what I'm looking to do with my life at that point in time. Do I want to go to sleep? Am I looking to, you know, alleviate some pain? But yeah, normally I'm an eater.
Yeah, no, I love a few edibles myself. Is there a favorite place in America that you like to consume, or is New Jersey your home and that's the one that you like the most?
Well, you know, I lived in Colorado for over 30 years, and I thought I loved Colorado, but I did live on the plains in a cow town called Greeley. You know, when people think of Colorado, they think of mountains and Aspen, and, you know, that's not where I lived, which is really funny because I moved to New Jersey, where everybody thinks, you know, New Jersey is this armpit of America, and it's, you know, a lot of industrial, like concrete, smoke, smelly. But I live in a really, really beautiful part of New Jersey. I live between the ocean and the forest, and it's just incredible. Like, the wildlife, the diversity here is amazing. So I really am liking New Jersey. I have not been upstate to the northern part of New Jersey, which is where I hear the reputation comes from. But yeah, we love like exploring out this way. It's really pretty. Everything's like an hour away. New York City's an hour away. Atlantic City's an hour away. Philadelphia's an hour away. So we're in a really nice place. Yeah.
Excellent. But it's been amazing chatting to you, Anna. For all those who want to check out the paper, I would highly recommend visiting Anna's website and subscribing. The information is very valuable. And for 420 Organics, check out their site as well. Some of the top products over in the eastern seaboard of America. For now, Anna, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about cannabis.
Absolute pleasure. Hopefully we get to chat again towards the end of the year, and we'll have some sort of movement happening in Europe, as I'm sure you saw the German rules. I've no doubt there'll be a hell of a lot of cultivation. The likes of Scott's Miracle Grow will be the biggest cannabis companies in Europe as well.
All right.
Happy days. Well, you have a great day, and thank you very much for the time, Anna.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers. Until next time, everybody.